in a world that just feels like it's constantly speeding up, right? There's this relentless stream of information, change. It's a lot. How do you even make sense of it all? And more importantly, how do you actually use it? To your advantage, I mean.
Yeah.
So today, we're aiming to give you a kind of shortcut, a way to understand how businesses, and maybe you too, can get a handle on market trends. We're going to unpack the tools, the strategies, basically moving trend spotting from, guesswork into something more like a strategic science.
And it's really not an exaggeration to say this capability has moved way beyond just marketing. It's fundamental now for survival, for growth.
Yeah.
If organizations are just reacting, they're already playing catch-up. The ones who really succeed are systematically integrating these trends, using them to adapt, sure, but also to actually shape what's next.
Okay, so let's unpack that. A key thing to get right up front is that not all these market movements are the same. We really need to draw some lines between, say, fads, trends, and then these mega trends.
Crucial distinction.
Let's start with fads. These are the really short-lived things driven by novelty. Think Pokemon Go or maybe fidget spinners.
Oh, yeah, I remember those.
They pop up, often go viral, and then poof, they're gone.
Yeah.
For a business, maybe it's a chance for some quick, low-cost engagement. But you wouldn't build your 5-year plan around it, right?
Absolutely not. And what's interesting is how different they are from a real trend. Trends have more staying power. We're talking maybe 3 to 10 years, typically. And they're rooted in something deeper, maybe new tech or shifting values, like the rise of plant-based diets or this whole move towards sustainable fashion. These aren't just vanishing next quarter.
Right, they have momentum, a direction.
Exactly, a discernible trajectory that makes them much more significant strategically than a fad.
And then you scale up again to megatrends. I like thinking of these as the glaciers of change.
That's a good way to put it.
Huge transformative forces reshaping whole societies, economies, often over decades. Things like digitalization or the aging population globally, urbanization.
With massive shifts.
Yeah, they have this immense, almost unstoppable momentum. They really change the entire landscape.
And the core takeaway here, really, is getting these categories wrong. That can be a catastrophic error. Just look at Kodak.
The classic example.
They saw digital photography basically as maybe a niche thing, maybe a fad, not as part of this massive digitalization megatrend.
Yeah.
And that failure to correctly classify the shift, well, we know how that ended. It really raises that crucial question. How do you allocate your resources if you fundamentally misunderstand what you're looking at?
So, okay, if getting it wrong is so dangerous, how do we get better at actually identifying these shifts and ideally identifying them early before they're obvious to everyone?
Right.
It sounds like we need a kind of modern forecaster's toolkit.
That's it. And it's not just one thing, it's a blend. You need the quantitative side, things like predictive analytics, using data to forecast.
With the numbers.
Yeah, but that's not enough. You also absolutely need the qualitative insights. Things like narrative analysis, digging into the stories, the conversations to understand the why behind the data, the human motivations.
Okay, so numbers and stories. What about technology's role?
Oh, huge. Tech is definitely at the vanguard. You've got AI-powered social listening, for example, that can scan millions of online conversations to spot tiny micro-trends bubbling up in real time.
Wow.
And then there are platforms like, say, Exploding Topics, which specifically track search terms and topics that are suddenly taking off. They give you those early signals.
Interesting.
And this is important, it's not just about the tech. The human element is still indispensable. Think expert panels, maybe using something like the Delphi method, where experts weigh in anonymously and iteratively.
Right, refining the forecast.
Exactly. And also dedicated trend scouting people actually out there, observing new behaviors, getting that real-world context and intuition that, honestly, data alone just can't capture.
So you gather all this. But identifying is just step one, isn't it? Maybe even the easier part. The real challenge seems to be applying it strategically.
Precisely.
And I gather that often means, maybe counterintuitively, strategically rejecting most trends you see. It's not about jumping on every single bandwagon.
Couldn't agree more. You need filters. People often use something like a relevance matrix, basically a way to map trends against, say, potential impact and how well they fit your specific company.
Your strategy, your vision.
Exactly. Does this trend actually align with your core purpose, your brand? Investing heavily in something that's misaligned, that can dilute your focus, waste money, and even damage your brand. It demands ruthless prioritization based on who you are and where you're going.
This is where it gets really fascinating, I think, because leaders seem to face these twin perils, as I call them. On one hand, the massive cost of inertia.
Mm-hmm. Sticking to what you know.
Yeah, clinging to the old models even when the writing's on the wall. Blockbuster, Kodak. There's such powerful warnings about resisting change, especially when it threatens your current cash cow.
Absolutely. But the other side of that coin is just as dangerous. The folly of chasing every single shiny new object.
A life cycle.
Right. That leads to scattered resources, costly failures. It's just as bad. Netflix is often held up as a masterclass here.
An adaptation, yeah.
They made that incredibly bold move to essentially cannibalize their own very successful DVD by mail business. Why? To pivot hard into streaming because they saw the trend, understood its power, and acted decisively. That's real strategic agility.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping this up,
Mhm.
what does all this mean for you listening right now?
Well, I think the ultimate point is that leveraging trends effectively isn't just about having the fanciest tools or the perfect process map. It really boils down to fostering a resilient organizational culture.
Culture.
Yeah, because often the biggest risk isn't some flaw in your data analysis. It's a corporate culture that's just fundamentally resistant to change. Look at Kodak again, or Nokia. Those weren't just failures of data collection.
Right.
They were cultural failures, rooted in fear of disrupting existing revenues, fear of challenging the status quo.
So the final thought is really about shifting from that feeling of reactive uncertainty to a place of proactive confidence. We really encourage you. Actively look for those glaciers of change in your own world, your own industry, and be honest about those twin perils. Are you or your organization mistaking a megatrend for a fad? Are you clinging too tightly to past success? Or maybe chasing too much hype?
Good questions to ask.
Stay curious, stay informed, and start thinking about how you can shape your future, not just react to it.